You know, kids, the angry video game nerd has actually been going on for so long, he started before YouTube was even invented. Created by James Rolfe, he's a rather angry fellow, ripping apart video games from his childhood in hilarious fashion. This was long before the likes of KSI, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, or the barrage of other video gamers online today. James Rolfe was it. He created this. So naturally, a movie was inevitable.
I have a funny feeling about this.
The film tells the story of the nerd, again played by Rolfe, being pestered by his fans to review the worst video game of all time, E.T., due to the myth that the game cartridges were all buried in the Nevada desert, leading to him and his cameraman Cooper, played by Jeremy Suarez, and Mandy, an executive at a corporation attempting to use the nerd's internet status for profit, played by Sarah Glendening, heading to the desert to disprove the myth once and for all. But unlike the other piles of tripe I've reviewed, James not only has a history and education of filmmaking, but he decided to do this one a bit differently. Firstly, he didn't rush it. Production actually began as early as 2006, just 2 years into his web series' birth. Rolfe and writer Kevin Finn, who he used to make short films with in high school, met up sporadically to work together on the screenplay, but it wouldn't get finished until 2008. Over the years, things slowed down the project as Rolfe heightened the production of the online series, posting 2 episodes a month, as well as countless other videos he was making at the time. Initially, Rolfe tried to get funding from traditional investors, but was unable to gain any interest, so he instead sought help from the public, attempting to raise $75,000 on an Indiegogo campaign. He ended up raising over $325,000. Jesus!
Why didn't you say so?
Thankfully, because he did it this way, he was actually able to maintain complete creative control over the entire project. Filming finally began in California on April the 1st, 2012 and wrapped on May the 11th the next month. But many additional scenes were shot by the local actors sporadically whenever possible. The entirety of filming didn't wrap until December 2013. The entire production process was consistently slowed down due to Rolfe's personal life and maintaining his upload schedule. And he would later claim that, quote, "What the audience is about to see is 8 years of mine and Kevin's lives in just 2 hours," end quote.
This is amazing!
This is horrible!
In fact, the movie caused such a buzz around the whole desert ET myth that fans genuinely did go to the desert to try to debunk the actual myth in real life when the premiere of the film started to approach. Not only did James take his time, knew what he was doing as far as a director goes, but he avoided copyright, changing the spelling of the heavily copyrighted video game, and it also got a damn premiere in theatres. Not buying it, it's probably
I can't let this happen.
Officially being released on July the 21st, 2014 and receiving mixed reviews. Some called it overly long and self-indulgent for a movie based on a web show, while fans of the series loved it for how similar it was to his videos. Some even wanted a sequel, but Rolfe claimed that although he hasn't ruled it out completely, it's unlikely due to how long the first one took to make. And since having kids, he just doesn't have as much free time anymore. What I will say is that this movie, in my opinion, is way better than it actually has any right to be. And a lot of the criticisms do confuse me. I've heard a lot of people say that it doesn't feel like an angry video game nerd movie. But how? I'm assuming they wanted guys like Kyle Justin and Mike Matei to have a more prominent role. In reality, they both have a random cameo when a bunch of fans of the nerd show up at the desert, and they weren't even there. This was shot in Philadelphia in front of a green screen. Although Kyle does sing a song here which isn't the famous nerd theme, which I think is a missed opportunity. But maybe that would have been too obvious. And weirdly, Mike Matei has claimed to have never watched the finished film, so maybe he was bitter about it too. I guess people wanted the nerd to go on an adventure with them instead, but the funny thing is, the characters of Cooper and Mandy were introduced because Rolfe's wife actually pointed out the lack of diversity in the web series, which is why he introduced a man of colour and a girl.
She's not a girl, she's a gamer.
Racist. There's also cameos from, oh god, Juwaria, that's aged well. Black Nerd, Doug Walker, Lloyd Kaufman, that guy who was in the avgn versus Nostalgia Critic fight whose name I can't remember and can't be bothered to look up. But my confusion lies with people saying it doesn't feel like a nerd movie when there's so many moments where he either makes direct references to the videos or says things that are clearly something he would say in the web series.
This is the vile crap I had to grow up with as a kid.
Rather suck the dry out of a dog's ass fur. Just looking at it makes me feel like having an anal evacuation. It sucks ass. Through a straw. That game is proof that we failed as a human race. It's a horrible abomination that you harder than life itself, and I wish I could send every single cartridge off the face of this earth.
Gamers today are so lucky they never have to encounter anything that sinks to this level of filth.
It's no better than a picture of the Loch Ness Monster showing the loch with nothing in it, or a picture of Bigfoot showing the woods with nothing in it, or a picture of a UFO showing the sky with nothing in it.
It'd be easier to go out in a thunderstorm and try to dodge rain.
What the hell are all these boxers doing here?
You ever see me play Top Gun? I'd rather have a dick grow out of my forehead, so every day's a struggle not to shoot piss into my own mouth until I eventually drown, only to get reincarnated as another dick on my now lifeless body. I mean, it's like somebody gave you a present, but then took a shit on your doorstep at the same time. Oh, you saw two Bigfoots? Wouldn't they be Big Feet or Debris?
No, it's debris.
Well, there's an S. Why isn't it pronounced Debris?
Rectal scanner.
Whatever. I'd rather lick the skid off the inside of a toilet bowl than aid you in your quest for world domination. Come on, shut you shitty swole-ass doors. I'd have an easier time doing a handstand while taking a Kind of like how every time I take a it's always different.
It's exactly like the show. I mean, he even still uses dial-up, has a record player in the damn van. The opening is a really cool animated intro. And I won't lie, these boomers describing and trying to understand the YouTube generation is just hilarious.
If people hate the games they're playing, why are they still playing them?
Which adds to the humour as the nerd gets pissed off at games and is a vile piece of but the fans love it and it makes them want to buy the game even more, and for him to review E.T., which only adds to his frustration further.
See, that's exactly what you say in the video.
I can't even be pissed off and have it mean anything anymore.
It's so cool to see the title card on the big screen, and the production is so much higher quality than his videos back then. It's a really wholesome opening credits sequence as he includes clips from his subscribers. It's a great way to get them involved. And even though it lasts a while, you never get bored. People again say that it's self-indulgent, but I repeat, what do you expect from a movie based on a YouTube web show? And again, I repeat, James revolutionized gaming online. I think that warrants a tiny bit of an ego. How dare this YouTuber who made a huge impact on YouTube point out how he made a huge impact on YouTube? Arrogant prick! I just feel like I'm being spoiled. I mean, this YouTube movie that's actually shot like a movie. What's next? I mean, even the green screen inside the car isn't bad for a YouTube movie. The green screens do actually significantly improve on this compared to his show. It's great. In fact, even when the green screens are a bit off, they're still not too bad considering its budget. In fact, I think I've seen worse green screens in Hollywood blockbusters. The funny thing is, the production design, music and effects were all intentionally done to look like they were in a low-budget video game. So when it's so obviously a toy van, it just adds to the charm and actually has a nice feel of old school filmmaking to it. Except the really obvious Mandy doll as this giant monster picks her up. It might be part of the joke and it only lasts a fraction of a second, but still it looks pretty bad. There's a really obvious Cooper dummy at one point. It's so cheesy but so funny. And he's somehow still alive after a fall like that.
You really believe they buried 2 million cartridges in the desert?
Yeah, well, how can you dispute the dozens of eyewitness accounts?
Well, there was Mothman. Loads of people said that they saw Mothman, and we all know that he doesn't exist. There's so many moments where the nerd goes off on a tangent ranting about something very similar to the show or his other series. You know what's bullshit. It's great. Except for when they're in the desert and basically they just needed to kill time. No, seriously, these evil suits hear some really forced dialogue.
Out here in the New Mexico desert, something allegedly happened many years ago. Yeah, we're talking E.T., extraterrestrial.
And now they think they're there to investigate real aliens, so we need something to fill time before the bad guys show up. So Cooper randomly starts discussing Santa Claus and the flat earth and...
One thing would remain. Bologna sandwich.
So like a giant bologna sandwich or like just a regular?
No size. I mean, since nothing else exists in existence to compare it to, this thing would be scaleless.
This one's not even funny, it's just pointless, it's just killing time. We do get a flashback at one point of Baby Nerd, and I do love how he's still wearing the same outfit. And the kid does a hilarious James Rolfe impression. There's a dream sequence where he gets attacked by E.T. and it's the cheapest, most pathetic puppet you will ever see. But it's okay, because...
Even my dreams are low budget.
I don't care, I love this film. It's just so much fun to see the nerd on such an epic scale. The production is nuts, and Rolf clearly knew what he was doing as a filmmaker. It doesn't feel like an extended YouTube video like all of the others. We may get the cliche of him waking up only to realise that he's actually still dreaming, but there's a zombie chase scene which also looks really damn good. He just wanted an excuse to throw horror in there, didn't he? It's also really weird. Does he just bin off his job to go on this road trip? There's a weird scene where Mandy reveals her true motive, but why would she even risk this? They're only asleep a few feet away from you! Although it is pretty predictable where this is going. Or is it? They do bond, and there's a hilarious scene with some really forced innuendos as Time Winters, who plays Dr. Zandor, believes that they're shagging. Then she gets used as a diversion, but to break the cliche, the nerd...
Come up here and rescue me right now!
F you FBI bitch!
I love that. And even when they meet back up, they completely sidestep it.
So sorry I ditched you that one time.
Yeah, that was a dick move.
I know. Cooper, you really turned into a man back there.
And then randomly, despite hinting at the nerd liking her, she hooks up with Cooper instead. It breaks all of the cliches. Like right here, the bad guys are chasing them down and some random dudes are carrying a pane of glass around. Yeah, you think you know where this is going, but then they move it out of the way of the good guys. Okay, so then they're gonna move it back and then the bad guys are gonna smash through it and...
What explanation, McButter?
Glass, sir. Double pane.
Okay, you don't see that coming. I think this script is a lot smarter than people give it credit for. The bad guy gets his arm blown off, and to be fair, the special effects are actually pretty decent. And then later on he loses his other one as well, and both times it just carries on like it's no big deal. So I assume there's a Monty Python.
Don't worry, son, it's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, of course. The car chase is actually pretty good, and it does get intense. When they meet up with Winters... yeah, good. This character was actually written for Howard Scott Warshaw, who designed the real-life game, but the guy actually does appear in the movie, and he requested to only have a cameo. Probably because he couldn't act.
People like us, we don't cover things up.
But at that point, this new character was introduced, and Winters really nails it. He makes the trio go through a test where they're in a video game scenario, and the visuals are actually pretty damn decent. And the script is pretty clever when adapting video game logic.
It's a game.
Yeah, an impossible one that relies on the gamer to take a shitty guess, like maybe there's an invisible block.
And Rolf's random comedy is just brilliant.
Everybody into the fridge now. Oh, wait, what are we doing here? They might be listening to us. You understand? They can't hear us in the fridge.
Oh, and it totally works. The agents actually can't hear them in the fridge. I also love how Rolf just does his angry face when all he's doing is drinking a damn beer. Mandy is a pretty entertaining character. She gets captured by the bad guys who attempt to force her to take them to Winter's house, but she wastes their time driving around aimlessly. She takes them to Las Vegas, she takes them to the Eiffel Tower. Okay, this movie is so goofy and cheesy and ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely thought that she somehow drove them to France. But no, it's the mock Eiffel Tower in Vegas.
It's all in honor of the angry video game nerd. You know, I saw the ads on Cockburn, and then it said he's going to be reviewing E.T. too. So then I added it up, you know what I'm saying? Because he's probably going to be reviewing the original E.T. game, and I'm going to be here when it all goes down, you know? So, you know, you can bet he's going to show up, and I'm going to be here ready for it, you know what I'm saying? I found this bone in the woods, but it turned out to be wood, so, you know, you never know what's going to happen, you know what I'm saying?
It's such a stupid joke and I laughed. Damn you, James. There's a great moment when a fan attempts to dig up the original game but then dies instantly. It turns out the E.T. game's map is based on the inside of Area 51, which leads to one of the greatest lines of all time.
Do you have any clue where Area 51 even is?
Between Area 50 and 52,
Followed by another great fourth wall joke.
a nerd's work is never done.
Now that's just a stupid line.
I only said it for the trailer.
This is the greatest YouTube movie ever. Low bar, but still. There is a pretty funny scene where the bad guys actually see some of the nerd's videos and love him, but then they see some of the irate gamer.
Not so much. He sucks.
Alright, it was Cooper. But realistically, they should have cast Chris Bores instead. And somehow, despite all of the riots failing a few years ago, the nerd is instantly able to get inside Area 51 without a problem. And the dumbasses don't even realise that he's a human until they try to dissect him. You can see that the money was very clearly well spent, and James's passion makes it an absolute blast to watch. The setup is hilarious as they try to force him to play the game against his will. An awful looking alien shows up, voiced by Robbie Rist. Yeah, the damn voice of Michelangelo. But unlike Linkara's shitty-ass robot, the ridiculousness fits with the style of the entire film, and James Rolfe doesn't think that he's Tom Cruise. Even his robot looks better than Linkara's. Funnily enough, Rist was actually a fan of the angry video game nerd. who previously reviewed Ninja Turtles 3 and even incorporated a clever joke into the movie. In his review, he mocks the death scene, and in this, he copies the exact issue with it. See, a lot of these jokes are great in the sense that if you've seen his show, you'll get the joke, but you also don't have to be able to laugh. Rist actually reached out to Rolf, requesting to be in any project of his, and he ended up getting the part of the alien.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Look at it, it's so goofy, it's hilarious. How does this not resemble the nerd fighting Bugs Bunny? Did any of you even watch the show? He ends up discovering other hoaxes like Tupac, Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, the moon landing. I love this film. The giant monster, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce,
Death Moth 6,
attacks Mount Fuji, and to be fair, the effects here actually do look pretty good. Except for this green screen. There are a lot of pretty creative shots to get around the low budget with him destroying famous landmarks. Yeah, it's cheesy, but it's fully intended to be. If you were a fan of the show, you would be expecting this, and the music during the action scenes is pretty awesome. Although I don't get some of the green screens. Like, why was this on a green screen? Why not just film people running down a random street? There is a pretty funny moment where he tries to land the plane like in his Top Gun review, and is all really intense before...
F*** it.
Although sometimes the joke doesn't land.
It's kind of like turning on Sunday Night Football when you want your dad to forget about your weekend chores you're supposed to do, right? Not even close.
The visuals are great, it's so well put together, and they're fully self-aware. They defeat the giant robot in the most ridiculous way possible.
You want me to explain? No.
Fair enough. See, it works here, Change the Channel, because they're aware. In yours, you think you're making Casablanca. I love the ending as the nerd gets reunited with his fans. It's such a wholesome ending. With how this movie got its funding, it really does come full circle. It's an epic moment as he gets given the controller and finally reviews the game. It's such a clever way to keep the viewer to sit through the credits too. It's an interesting way to do it, and the thing is, it's not even the worst game he's ever played. Him just raging at it would have been too obvious. So it's interesting to see him finally face the infamous game.
Once you understand how to play the game, it still sucks.
Angry Video Game Nerd the movie is awesome. It's an inspiring journey that an aspiring filmmaker decided to take based on a web series that really made a huge impact online. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. It's produced 1,000,000 times better than any of the other YouTube movies I've reviewed, and it's easily the best one. And you know what? Call me crazy, but based on the impact this guy made, and based on how it's a film made by the fans for the fans, I'd even argue this could be included in the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Yeah, I said it, come at me! And while you're at it, I'll leave a diarrhea dump in your ear. Did you notice my voice was going? I've still got to film the Mars Girl one.